Screw it. Let's talk one more time about offer sheets over here. So, let's go over this article here on TVA Sports discussing 5 more players who could be potential offer sheet candidates. Now, these guys are players that you know already. They're no name-breaking, game-changing kind of things listed in this TVA Sports article, but because it is listed here and because everybody is kind of talking about the offer sheet at the moment, hey, why not have a discussion about these guys? It's been a long time coming. I've been hinting at the fact that we need to make this video because the possibilities of threats from other teams offer sheeting these players, it does exist. And as a result, we can just discuss it because you only live once, I guess. That's a bad reason, but you know what? It is what it is. Take a look at this article over here. As we said, 5 other candidates for hostile bids. It's translated from French into English, and hostile bids is not really the best way to put it, but offer sheets, you know what they're talking about over here. With the KK offer sheet now settled, the Canadiens have chosen Saturday not to match the hostile offer submitted by the Hurricanes. Here are some other renowned players who may be tempted to imitate the Finn by being tempted to sign such a proposition. They have 5 names listed over here. I only really wanted to focus on 2, but we'll talk about the other 3 briefly, I guess. They have Brady Tkachuk listed as one of the names over here. We already spoke about Tkachuk a few videos ago about how the Ottawa Senators have been apparently really frustrating the Tkachuk camp in terms of the negotiations because they haven't given him a legit offer yet. They speak about Nolan Patrick, Vegas Golden Knights guy, who is indeed a brand new acquisition for that team acquired in the Cody Glass trade and subsequent 3-way trade as well with Ryan Ellis of the Philadelphia Flyers. They discuss Kailer Yamamoto from the Edmonton Oilers, who is indeed another young player who is on his way to becoming a pretty good star, and then they go over to others as well. Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. In the Vancouver Canucks, general manager Jim Benning has tried to be reassuring in recent weeks by saying that he is not at all worried about the rest of the Elias Pettersson case. We'll rephrase that. He is not worried about the Elias Pettersson offer sheet situation. Elias Pettersson has completed his entry-level deal and nevertheless wants to win while being remunerated at fair value. Wow, that's a big word. Didn't realize I'd find an article talking about remuneration on a TVA Sports article. The 22-year-old skater is certainly talented, but injuries tend to hold him back. Last season, a wrist problem kept him out for 30 games, and that's what it says about that. So let's go over Elias Pettersson, just kind of go over the entire thing over here, because I know any Canucks fan who is watching this video is like, man, Lego, why are you making a video about this? You're just going out there trying to get views. You're just trying to get money in the offseason. It's a dead offseason, eh? You're trying to look for topics, trying to dig anything you can because you want to get money, you dirty YouTuber. Imagine trying to make YouTube videos for money. What a guy. Well, spoiler alert, this is my full-time job, so when people are talking about things, I kind of have to talk about them as well. And this Elias Pettersson offer sheet has never really been something that we had made a full-time video about until now, and because it's mentioned in an article, that's kind of why we're going over it here. But if you had been watching my previous videos talking about Pettersson, the Canucks, the entire situation over there, you know I am not scared in the slightest of an Elias Pettersson Vancouver Canucks offer sheet. This is because, as the article puts it out over here, Benning has been super scared of an offer sheet the entire time. We had the video yesterday talking about a quote from Elliot Friedman where he highlights the same things, that yes, Benning has indeed been pretty fearful the past few months, which is why he unloaded a whole bunch of money. Now, I said my concerns yesterday as to how I don't really know how Ekman Larsson plays into that, but who really knows? Beagle, Roussel, Eriksson, whatever, all that stuff being taken out of the team, it technically is a little bit more in the savings pocket when you compare it to OEL by himself. So for Jim Benning and the Vancouver Canucks, sure, a lot of people are going to go out there and say, oh, they only have $10 million of cap space to sign Pettersson and Hughes. Well, you're not really paying attention because the Vancouver Canucks have themselves one important LTIR contracts. They do have Michael Furland, who is on the LTIR, which brings the total number of available cap the Canucks have to about 14-ish million dollars because they have 10.6 cap space at the moment. Furland's contract is 3.5. That's 3.5 million you're allowed to go over the salary cap. If you have 14-ish million dollars, guess what? 7, you could do that for Pettersson, you could do that for Hughes, sure. Pettersson wanting short-term, Hughes being willing to go a little bit longer kind of makes things a little bit difficult, which is why this contract negotiation process has gone on for quite a long time now. But if there's any team that's going to go out there and tell Elias Pettersson, hey, we want to give you a $10 million offer sheet, Firstly, the price is going to be so astronomically high. Like, would you really want to give up upwards of 2 firsts, a second, and a third for Elias Pettersson? I know it's a good player right here. I love Elias Pettersson, by the way, but I don't know if NHL teams are willing to go out there and overpay that amount of draft capital for one individual player. We know for KK, the Hurricanes offer sheet, that was a first and a third, but Elias Pettersson, if you give him like $9-10 million, whatever, sure, it could really potentially screw up the Vancouver Canucks in their cap situation, but 2 firsts, a second, and a third-round pick, there are only so many teams in the NHL that can actually afford that. Arizona, Buffalo, Dallas, Detroit, Minnesota, Montreal, Nashville, New Jersey, Ottawa, Seattle. Elias Pettersson said himself he wants to play for a winning team, and half these teams over here are not winning teams, nor do they really project to being winning teams in the next 2-3 seasons either, so the chance that Pettersson signs an offer sheet with Detroit because they're paying him a lot of money after he came out there and said all the comments about playing for a winning team, not sure. Montreal, maybe, but they already got Dvorak, so it's not really possible in that respect. For New Jersey, I don't think they need to sign an Elias Pettersson. Minnesota could do it, but I mean, is Minnesota really going to do that? If they do, then wow, but I'm not really too sure if that's going to happen. If any team goes out there and signs a $10.2+ million offer sheet, though, that's 4 first-round picks. You're not going to do that. That is just unceded waters right there. And besides, the article lays it out right here. Yes, PD is probably a player who is going to be worth $10 million at some point in his life. Whether that's next year, in 2 years, 3 years, who knows? But he is a guy who has been slowed down a ton by injuries so far throughout his career. It hasn't been the smoothest ride for EP40 so far, which definitely contributes to the potentially lower contract amount that he could get. But at his best, he could be a franchise 100-point center, which is kind of why I want the Vancouver Canucks to really just hold down and say, okay, any offer sheet that comes our way, a realistic one at that, we'll match it. If there's something that comes along that we don't really feel comfortable with, then we'll just, I don't know, trade Tyler Myers or something to match it. I don't really know, but either way, Elias Pettersson offer sheet, we don't know. The next guy we want to talk about here, sorry, I took up the entire video by talking about EP40, is Rasmus Dahlin. The Sabres don't have Captain Jack Eichel's basket of crabs in their table. There is also Rasmus Dahlin, the first player called in the 2018 draft, who continues to wait for a contract. The good news for fans of the club is that GM Kevin Adams has been active the past week in signing contracts with Mittelstadt and Joki Harju. Also, the organization can hardly do without one of its most talented skaters. The reason why I kind of left this video to the end is because, come on, it's the Buffalo Sabres right here, it's Rasmus Dahlin. The Sabres don't really have anything to fear when it comes to a Dahlin offer sheet, because sure, a team could go out there and offer sheet him to a 7-year, I don't know, $10 million deal, but if the Sabres really wanted to match it, they do have $23 million in cap space to work with. Now, sure, next year, they have a long list of players who do expire, and Eklund, and Hinestroza, and Kajula, and Colin Miller, and Will Butcher, and Robert Haig. They have so many guys who are indeed expiring, but this team is a team that definitely does have the money to burn should they be forced into a position of matching a big offer sheet for Dahlin of all people. And besides, I'd been talking this entire time about Elias Pettersson being a really good player who could potentially be a $10 million player. You take a look at these really good #1 defenders in the National Hockey League. Seth Jones, okay, bad example, but like, these guys are getting paid. Dougie Hamilton, Seth Jones, Zach Werenski, Miro Heiskanen, these guys are all getting extraordinarily high amounts of money, and if we continue down this trend for the next few seasons, who's to say Rasmus Dahlin could not be a part of that too? Now, he's had his own set of problems in terms of development at the NHL level in becoming a star himself, but we all know at his best he could be that really strong puck-moving #1 defenseman who logs so many minutes, who is so capable in his own zone, and who puts up maybe 60-70 points. Like, he is one of the most hyped-up Swedish defensemen since Hedman, since Nick Lidstrom, you could say. He is that guy. So for Rasmus Dahlin, even though the threat of an offer sheet does exist, the Buffalo Sabres have no reason to go out there and not match it. They're committed to this guy. He is extraordinarily important to their organization, and they have the money to burn should an offer sheet of any sizable magnitude come their way. So, for Rasmus Dahlin, not really worried. EP40, not really worried either. These other guys, though, Nolan Patrick, Kailer Yamamoto, Kachuk, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, offer sheets, they're so rare nowadays. It's only really Montreal and Carolina who does them anyway, so the legitimacy of the offer sheet idea heading into the future, to me, it's not really there, but we will see as things go on. Talk to me in the comments. What do you think about these players over here? The offer sheet. Do you think it's an idea worth discussing? Tell me in the comments. What do you think? If you enjoyed this, was Charles 99. And bye.